Welcome. We're packing 3,000 years of battlefield know-how into 16 punchy chapters. Only the tactics that make you go, wait, they did what? For each one, we'll show the quick story, how it actually works, the classic counter, and a fast example you'll remember. Expect crisp maps, mini diagrams, and on-screen receipts. No jargon jungles, just clean breakdowns. Chapters are in the description, so jump around. At the end of each chapter, you'll get a one-line takeaway you can jot down, plus a quick, would this still work today, verdict. If you're ready to spot the tricks, dodge the traps, and see how wars are really won and lost, hit like, grab a note, and let's dive in. 1. Ambush alchemy. Turn terrain into a trap. Picture a harmless road, a soft bend, a culvert, birds loud enough to hide a safety's click. Ambush is the oldest jump scare in war, but it isn't just surprise, it's engineered timing. The craft is turning terrain, tempo, and human habit into a brief window where the enemy is present, predictable, and pinned, then collapsing that window on them. A competent ambush begins days before shots. You don't set up, you study. Track when convoys depart, where they slow, which vehicle always lags, whether the lead gunner scans high or low. In jungle, it's trails and canopy. In desert, wadis and mirage. In cities, trash day, bus routes, shutter rhythms. What you're mapping is attention. People look forward on roads, downstairs in buildings, towards sunlight in alleys. Ambush flips that expectation. Pick ground that compresses and fixes. Classics: a defile, bridge approach, blind curve, stair landing, market alley with only 2 exits. Arrange the geometry so the first strike doesn't just make noise, it locks the formation. Engines disabled front and rear, sightlines blocked by smoke and shape, comms confused for a heartbeat. The initial volley isn't about kills, it's about freezing judgment. Under shock, humans reach for yesterday's SOP, reverse, bunch break. Exactly what your layout punishes. History proves the pattern. At Teutoburg, Arminius didn't need better swords than Rome. He needed Romans long, wet, and strung out where shields mattered less than mud. Same rhyme at Little Bighorn. Split columns drift into a bowl of converging fires, or in modern convoy hits, where one culvert charge drops the lead truck and turns the rest into a line of metal decisions. Different eras, same math. The first 10 seconds belong to whoever wrote the moment. Discipline is the engine. Ambush isn't yelling and spraying, it's a countdown. Sectors are briefed, so 2 rifles never argue over the same target. Breaching duels are staged if you'll drag a driver out. The shift from blast to suppress, maneuver, disengage is timed like a drumline. Boredom is planned. Where does each team bound if the target punches through? Which med route is smoke covered? What if a farmer moves goats across your field of fire? Bad ambushes improvise answers. Good ones pre-answer. Psychology is the weapon. Units that lose context for 20 seconds, can't locate fire, can't see leadership, can't move the first 2 vehicles, often invent a bad plan that saves you ammunition. Angles decide this. A linear ambush, one-sided fire, is easy to parse. An L-shaped or multi-angle design makes towards safety unclear. The moment people disagree about forward, they bunch. Bunching is the drum roll to disaster. Ambushes can also ambush their owners. Patterns kill. Reusing a choke point, staging in the same orchard, letting the same merchant watch you birdwatch every Thursday. Overstaying kills too. Surprise is ice on a hot plate. It melts fast. If your exfil relies on luck or your ammo math assumes the enemy will behave, you'll still be in the kill zone when their mortars or air support finish coffee. Optics matter. In cities, even a lawful, clean strike can look like a massacre on a phone screen. If you can't explain your geometry and target choice afterward, you're risking strategic capital for a tactical spike. Counters are boring, which is why they work. Spacing and speed discipline keep one blast from eating a squad. Scouts, human or drone, poke culverts, scan roof lines, log little wrongs, fresh soil, a new cable on a pole. Flank security blunts the classic L. If hit, the drill is simple but hard under adrenaline. Smoke, suppress, assault toward the nearest fire if pinned, or drive through if the lane is stunned, not dead. Break the fix, flip from we're in their plan to we're moving in ours. Technology hasn't killed ambush, it evolved it. Cheap quadcopters expose blind curves, but also enable remote ambush with fires cued from a Sky Scout. Electronic warfare can spoil detonators or comms, but a timed wired trigger ignores jamming. In high rises, the best ambush is vertical. Mouse hole through interior walls so fires appear from floors, not facades, while a sniper seeds doubt elsewhere. In the information domain, the first video is the first volley. Plan the truthful, rapid after action before first contact, so rumor doesn't turn a clean strike into a month of narrative loss. Blueprinted as 3 rings. Outer, reconnaissance and early warning. Eyes on approaches, drones up, a cutoff team on the unexpected exit. Middle, the kill zone. Angles, obstacles, beckett smoke, timings, shock, and sustained suppression. Inner, the escape mind. Pre-staged caches, med routes, rally points, and the clock that says, we've had our minute, go. Mastery is humility, leave on time. Would it still work today? Yes, because the constants are human. Attention channels forward, formations stretch when they feel safe, and shock steals cognition. Sensors raise the bar, they don't remove the door. Treat the ambush as a full cycle, intel, shaping, strike, story, not just a loud moment. If you choreograph all 4, the enemy will swear you had more people and better guns. You didn't. You owned the moment. End chapter takeaway, surprise buys seconds. Preparation turns those seconds into control. Modern verdict still works, especially when terrain, timing, drones, and a clean exit are part of the plan. Number 2, the fake panic. Feigned retreats that bite back. Picture dust, shouting, and a line that suddenly buckles. Men dropping shields, riders wheeling away in apparent terror. You feel the rush. They're breaking. That split-second decision to chase is the hinge of this tactic. Feigned retreat turns your momentum into their geometry. Draw pursuers into ground you've prepared, stretch them out, then snap. Start with the acting. A fake route has to look messy but stay wired. The panic element keeps spacing just ragged enough to sell it, while scouts and flankers pace the enemy like sheepdogs, nudging them toward the kill strip, a defile, a low bank, hiding archers, a bend that masks a blocking force. The moment the pursuers commit, formations unraveling, reserves thrown in early, the ruse flips. Hidden wings close, or the routed element pivots on a pre-briefed cue, and the chasers discover they've sprinted into a mouth that already has teeth. History loves this trick. Steppe cavalry perfected it. Parthians exhausting pursuers, then turning to shower arrows, Parthian shot. The Mongols used it at sail. Hours of staged flight to draw heavier foes from their infantry screens, then a corkscrew of horse archers and heavy cavalry closing from both sides. Even at Hastings, 1066, Norman retirements teased the shield wall into uphill disorder. The common thread isn't horses, it's discipline masquerade as fear. Why it works is human. Victory feels near, and leaders crave the headline of a routed enemy. Pursuit narrows vision. Intervals vanish. Support weapons can't keep up. Comms lag behind speed. You haven't just pulled them forward, you've pulled them apart. Where it fails is also human. If your acting is too good, your own troops believe it. If the enemy keeps their formation, advances by bounds, or refuses to leave their protective terrain, the trap empties. Timing is the cliff edge. Snap too early and they're still cohesive. Too late and they're already pulling back, leaving you exposed. Modern twists swap horses for city blocks and radios. A light force breaks through a neighborhood, skirmishing, then falling back through buildings to a plaza covered by hidden MGs, AT teams, and pre-sighted mortars. Or at battalion scale, an overmatched screen yields a crossroads that puts the enemy under overlapping anti-armor fires. In the information space, you can feign operational weakness, quiet nets, decoy logistics, to provoke an overeager lunge toward what looks like your soft rear, then cut their supply with long-range fires. Counters are boring on purpose. Hold formation, don't chase blind. Push scouts or drones ahead of momentum. Keep flank security even when adrenaline says go. If you must pursue, do it with a covering force pacing the enemy while the main body reforms and advance on multiple axes so a single kill zone can't swallow you. Legal ethical note. Pulling a fight away from civilians is good. Dragging it into them for a headline is not. If your panic funnels violence into a market to make pictures, you didn't outsmart the enemy. You outsmarted your own strategy. Would this still work today? Yes, because overconfidence is evergreen. Sensors make ruses harder, but also noisier. If your story fits the enemy's prejudice, they're cracking, your fake retreat still buys the trap. At the end of this chapter, takeaway. When victory looks easy, assume you're entering someone else's plan. Pursue with eyes, not adrenaline. Number 3, Trojan tricks. Deception, decoys, and deepfakes. War is a game of beliefs. If I can make you believe the wrong thing at the right time, I don't need a bigger army, I need a better story. Deception isn't props, it's plot. A false plan that fits your expectations so perfectly you confirm it for me. Build it backward. Start with the decision you want the enemy to make. Shift reserves east, hold back your air. Then write the narrative that would trigger that decision given their biases. They favor coastal landings. They always mass before striking. Only then pick means. Dummy tanks, spoofed radio nets, fake logistics dumps, controlled leaks, a talkative double agent, cyber breadcrumbs in the exact format their analysts salivate over. The real plan, meanwhile, wears boring clothes. The blueprint shines in Operation Fortitude, 1944. The Allies invented a fake army, Fusag, with inflatable tanks, phantom divisions, wooden planes, and a celebrity commander, Patton, to sell the idea that the invasion would hit Pas de Calais, not Normandy. They fed the story through double agents and radio traffic. The Germans, already biased to protect Calais, kept key units out of Normandy long enough for the real landing to stick. That wasn't rubber tanks, it was narrative engineering. Modern deception is the same grammar over new channels. You can flood OSINT with compelling satellite scenes, decoy vehicle parks, plant a malware tell in a network you actually don't care about, or use a swarm of cheap emitters to simulate brigade-sized radio chatter. On day one, a coordinated burst of spoofed GPS, fake NOTAMs, and bot-amplified rumors can make an enemy reroute air and ground units away from where you actually intend to break through. Failure modes, 3. Cost disease, you spend more faking than fighting. Pattern fatigue, the enemy clocks your shtick and discounts it. Truth leaks, one contradiction collapses the house of cards. The antidote is plausibility. Your lie must fit the world better than the truth does under time pressure. Counters, treat intelligence like a courtroom, demand multi-source corroboration, make red teams try to kill the favorite story. Reward I don't know yet more than fast certainties. OSINT is a blessing and a curse. Use public imagery to challenge classified comfort. And slow decisions when possible. Deception hates patience. Ethics legal. Ruses of war are legal. Perfidy, feigning protected status. Ambulances surrender is not. Deepfakes raise escalatory risk. Build verification rituals, code words, visual markers for leadership communications before the crisis so a synthetic video can't stampede your chain of command. Would this still work today? Absolutely, and more because everyone watches the same public feeds. The side that understands how analysts actually think, not how doctrines say they should, wins this chapter. At the end of this chapter, takeaway, the best deception isn't flashy, it's plausible. Make the enemy finish your lie for you. Number 4, closing jaws. The double envelopment. This is the poster on every tactician's wall. Fix the center, swing the wings, close the pocket. Done right, you don't just beat an army, you erase it. The image is Cannae, 216 BCE. Hannibal lets Rome push into his elastic center while cavalry and infantry roll up both flanks, the Roman mass suffocating in a shrinking ring of steel. But double envelopments aren't magic. They're math. You need 3 ingredients. 1, a fixing force that can hold under pressure or invite it, a deliberately soft center. 2, mobile wings that can arrive coherently, combined arms intact, not just speed. 3, time. Enough to close the loop before the enemy senses the shape and backs out. Miss one, and you get a sagging line, not a trap. Why it dazzles. Humans anchor on the unit in front of them. When flanks fold behind, your forward is now surrounded. Comms jam under bodies, commanders can't face every direction at once, artillery can't fire without hitting friendlies, oxygen becomes a plan. Big encirclements in the 20th century, Kiev, 1941, parts of Operation Bagration, 1944, turned divisions into prisoners because roads, bridges, and radios couldn't outrun claws closing at multiple points. Why it fails? A, you telegraph the swing and the enemy refuses a flank, angles their line, backs onto a river or fort belt. B, your wings culminate. Fuel, ammo, engineers can't keep up, so the claws touch air. C, the enemy's interior lines move reserves faster than your outer loop. D, a breakout turns your ring into a thin garrote that snaps under counterattack. Also, closing a pocket you then can't reduce is a logistics trap. You'll spend weeks feeding, guarding, and shelling a problem you created. Modern reality check. Satellites, drones, and SIGINT make huge, stealthy double envelopments rare in open terrain. But the logic survives in smaller frames and with new tools. Fires-based encirclement, precision strikes that cut bridges, rail nodes, and fuel, while ground forces seize a few key choke points, creates a cauldron without a perfect ring. In urban fights, you can double envelop districts, not armies, isolate neighborhoods, hold crossings, and let ammo and morale solve the rest. At sea, converging submarine missile arcs can functionally encircle a task force without a visible wall. Counters read the tempo, not the map. If your center is being allowed to win too easily while your flanks feel heavier fire, suspect the shape. Refuse a flank, angle your line back to shorten the side, trade ground for time, or fall onto a defensible sign, ridge, river. Keep mobile reserves uncommitted until the picture clarifies, and watch logistics, enemy bridging parks, engineer traffic, fuel points, because envelopment is as much engineer art as maneuver art. Legal, ethical, pockets trap civilians with soldiers. If you're choosing to create a cauldron around a city, plan humanitarian corridors, filtration that respects law, and policing for looters/abusers. A clean encirclement isn't clean if starvation is your only reducer. Would this still work today? Yes, scaled and sensor-aware. You'll more often see partial envelopment plus interdiction than a movie-perfect canne. The spirit is the same. Fix, turn, seal the exits, even if the seal is steel on bridges and pixels on a GPS screen. At the end of this chapter, takeaway. Envelopment wins by geometry plus logistics. Hold the middle, hurry the wings, and close the exits faster than they can think. Number 5, the disappearing act. Fabian's strategy. Imagine a bully who only wins if you show up after school. Fabian's strategy is saying, "See you never," while slashing his bike tires, bribing the janitor to lock his shortcut, and making sure the cafeteria runs out of his favorite snack. It's the art of not giving battle on their terms, avoiding decisive clashes, nicking the supply lines, letting time, weather, and budgets do the heavy lifting. Start with the hardest sell, telling your own people that patience is the plan. Leaders who choose avoidance must speak like accountants and poets at once. Minutes about rail junctions and depots, and then a line that makes restraint feel like courage. Fabius Maximus had to explain to Romans addicted to glory why shadowing Hannibal and burning crops was the only path left. Washington had to explain why keeping an army alive mattered more than chasing redcoats for headlines. Good Fabianism is 30% logistics, 30% psychology, 40% politics. What does it look like on the ground? Roads suddenly feel longer. Bridges keep accidentally collapsing behind rear guards. Depots erupt the night before you arrive. Your opponent is ever present but nowhere, like a bad mood. You push a division forward, it gets fed by a single road. That road is now a panada. You spread out to guard it. A rainstorm turns your timetable to soup. Winter questions your wardrobe. You realize that movement itself is the enemy's target. The defender's job is to save strength and spend distance. Fall back from open country to river lines to fort belts. Leave behind poison time. Craters in crossroads, rails twisted, Sherman's neckties, fuel siphoned from abandoned vehicles, food priced in miles. Meanwhile, keep centers, the capital, factories, ports, attached to the body like a mountaineer checking carabiners. Avoid battles that eat brigades for small rectangles on a map. Pick fights that cost the attacker days for a bridge, weeks for a valley. Where does it break? Morale. Voters and soldiers like verbs, not patience. A single loud defeat can be explained. A season of strategic withdrawals tastes like rot. Enemies know this. They push a narrative as hard as they push troops. They're fleeing. The Fabian leader must flood the zone with metrics that matter. Tons of enemy supplies destroyed, trains delayed, brigades tied down, winterized stockpiles ready, allied aid landing. In quiet, you must show the math. Modern Fabianism lives or dies on civil defense. If you'll trade space for time, civilians need heat, water, food, medicine, sirens, shelters, and phone charge points. Families who can survive will forgive retreats. Families who can't will demand a charge you can't afford. And yes, allies, avoiding battle only works if someone is bending the enemy's economy while you bend his calendar. Would it still work today? Absolutely, especially against opponents who rely on speed and spectacle. Drones don't care about your pride. Storms don't care about their satellites. The trick is to keep your society's clock ticking in your favor. Wages paid, schools open where possible, the world watching you outlast instead of collapse. Fabian victory is a photo of a tired invader staring at a mud road in October that used to be August. At the end of this chapter, takeaway: patience is a weapon. but only if your people, partners, and pantry can outlast the bully's calendar. Would it still work today? Yes. With civil defense, allied aid, and a storytelling plan, the quiet strategy wins loud wars. Number 6. The Matchstick Rebellion, Guerrilla and Insurgency. If Fabianism is the slow fade, guerrilla war is the paper cut that won't heal. It turns villages into logistics, alleys into ambushes, and stories into supply lines. Think of it as warfare where the decisive terrain is a human network. Grandmothers with gossip, teenagers with motorbikes, a teacher with a storeroom key, the baker who knows which soldiers leave base early on Thursdays. You don't start with bombs, you start with belief. A cause that locals can repeat in one breath. Land rights, faith, dignity, the corrupt cop down the street. Then you grow capacity the size of your pockets. Safe houses, couriers, medics who can pull shrapnel in a kitchen, a printer in the back of the barbershop. Your early wins aren't spectacular. They're procedural. A constable who quits, a tax collector who starts negotiating, a checkpoint that waves your aunt through because the guard is dating your cousin. Injure the state in 1,000 small ways until it chooses brutality and you can film it. Tactically, guerrillas live on edges, roads just outside artillery comfort, neighborhoods where patrols can't linger, hills that watch depots but aren't worth a brigade. Ambush, melt, sabotage a rail, melt, torch a fuel truck, melt. The rhythm is appear, cost, disappear. If you fight for a minute too long, you fight a minute you won't get back. If you sprint to a decisive battle too soon, you just fed a bigger stomach. The genius move is building governance in miniature as you go. Clinics, dispute councils, price caps on staples enforced by shame more than guns, courts that handle land spats better than the state ever did. Now your rifle has a vote. When the state returns with a clinic and a court that actually works, you've been outgoverned. When it returns with a raid and a shakedown, you hang a banner and enroll 3 new cousins. Why do insurgencies fail? Sanctuary dries up, safe borders go unfriendly, or drones make mountains shorter. Legitimacy rots. Greed convinces you to tax like a state without delivering like one. An atrocity loses you a district in an afternoon. Or your opponent learns coin for real, protects markets first, stops their own soldiers from theft, rotates competent local cop in, and pairs amnesty with real jobs. Nothing empties a cell meeting like paychecks and safety. Phones changed everything and nothing. A grandmother can live stream an abuse in seconds. A commander can geofence recruits to keep them safe. A raid force can trace your battery's last charge. The insurgents' counter is discipline. No phones at meetings, no bright patterns, sleep away from family, never 2 meetings at the same cafe. The state's counter is trust. Compensate victims fast, jail corrupt officers, count your own sins out loud, and make your courts faster than their slogans. Would it still work today? In places where story plus sanctuary plus state failure align, yes. In cities whose cameras can shame a bad raid by dinner, yes. But the price is always the same, years. If you can't pay time, don't start a tab. At the end of this chapter, takeaway. Guerrilla war wins when governance grows with the gun. It loses when the gun outruns the people. Would it still work today? Yes, if you pair discipline, sanctuary, and services with a cause locals can say in one breath. Lightning overload. Shock and awe 2.0. Shock and awe is not just big explosions, it's overloading the nervous system all at once. So decision makers can't decide, units can't coordinate, and by the time feelings return to fingers, the map has changed. Think of it like flipping breakers across a city while also calling every phone with a different lie and changing the street signs. The old version leaned on precision strikes, missiles and jets decapitating command posts, blinding radars, cratering runways in the same hour. The new version braids cyber, EW, drones, information ops, and law. A dawn might begin with GPS drift, phones glitching, air defense radars seeing ghosts, a flood of deep-faked urgent orders, and a volley of missiles at power substations, followed by ground units slipping through pre-opened seams. If you're on the receiving end, your priority list combusts. Is that really the general? Is the bridge gone or just the network? Who's jamming us? Where is the nearest working map? But shock without walkthrough is fireworks. The window you create collapses fast. Humans rewire faster than we give them credit for. That's why the plan must be kinetic choreography. The moment comms blink, sappers hit bridges, As radars die, drones climb. As HQs go dark, small units with pre-delegated orders move. Your lawyers are part of the assault. Lawfare can keep neutral ports closed to enemy resupply or make insurers flee their shipping lanes. Your media team is too. Credible pictures and receipts frame the day before rumor frames you. Shock fails against the boringly resilient. Paper maps, runners, backup radios and ammo cans, pre-staged orders and envelopes, commanders trained to act without mommy. It also fails when collateral damage writes a bigger story than your victory. If a hospital loses power because you hit a transformer and your only answer is oops, your shock just bought the enemy a coalition. The counter is to prune your own dependencies before the war. Practice degraded ops. No GPS, no drones, no top-down texts. Drill mission commands so captains don't wait for majors. Harden what matters, disperse what can move, and lie in wait with cheap decoys to soak expensive missiles. And write verification rituals so deep-faked orders don't stampede your chain of command. Code words, analog backups, a rule that big changes require 2 independent channels. Would it still work today? Yes, especially on regimes that centralize decisions, fetishize screens, and outsource initiative to a few phones in a bunker. But the bright flash must be followed by boots, budgets, and boring. Secure crossings, restore power to hospitals you didn't hit, and put a cop on every intersection you just liberated. Otherwise, the nervous system you paralyzed twitches back angrier. At the end of this chapter, takeaway: shock opens doors, discipline walks through, with lawyers, sappers, medics, and a plan for day 2. Would it still work today? Against screen-heavy systems. It fails against paper, patience, and pre-planned autonomy. Number 8, city pinball. Urban warfare without a pause button. A city fight is combat plus civilization in the same frame. Stairwells, basements, roofs, schools, hospitals, markets. Every block is a different country, and every window is a camera. Your goal isn't just to take ground, it's to isolate, enter, clear, and stabilize without turning tomorrow into a riot. Step 1 is isolation. Don't rush the boulevard if the ring roads are still open. Cut the feeders, bridges, overpasses, place alleys big enough for pickups. Declare and keep corridors for civilians to leave. Your soldiers will fight better when every shadow isn't a family. Then shape. Drones paint the map. Strong points, sniper nests, likely IED belts. Smoke obscures lines of sight. Precision takes out the worst teeth. Radio relays, AT teams, while your lawyers verify targets that sit near a pharmacy. Entering a city is like entering a beehive without killing the honey. Mouse hole through walls rather than contesting streets. Armor becomes moving cover, not a spear. Snipers love your engine blocks. Engineers lead with breach kits and tape. Medics are never far. Every squad has someone who talks like a cop, not just a soldier. The best units bring a floor plan mentality. Mark cleared rooms, wire doors open, note which apartments have pets, sound cues, and generators. Power cues. Your most precious commodity is freshness. Fatigue turns professionals into risks. Rotate like your honor depends on it. On day 1, gunfights write headlines. On day 2, trash does. Who picks it up? Where do people get water? Which clinic is open? Did you leave a light at the crossroads so ambulances don't play roulette? If you can't answer, the neighborhood will answer for you, with anger. Urban operations that forget services discover that insurgency can be replaced faster than it's removed. The city isn't a prize, it's a contract. Defenders turn the map into a maze. Tunnels linking blocks, booby-trapped stairwells, decoy firing positions, a sniper who fires twice a day and posts the footage with music. They try to make you shoot at ghosts and then film you shooting at shadows. Your antidote is tempo with evidence. Body cams, drone footage, and immediate public briefings that show what you saw and why you shot. If you can't narrate your own fight, someone else will. Poorly. Where do city battles go to die? Comms and Casevac. Concrete eats radios. Mesh networks, line-of-sight repeaters, and runners with laminated cards keep squads from becoming islands. Casualty evacuation must be boringly reliable. Pre-cleared routes, armored ambulances, aid stations closer than comfort, and deconflicted fires so your own guns don't own your stretchers. If a private thinks, if I get hit, no one can reach me, your tempo evaporates. Would it still work today? Urban fights aren't going away, they're getting smarter. Nano-drones, AI-assisted floor plan mapping, and non-lethal tools, flashbangs, thermal smoke, doorbusters, help, but Nothing replaces the trio of discipline, restraint, and services. The city will remember how you treated it long after it forgets where you stood. At the end of this chapter, takeaway. Win the city by isolating first, clearing smart, and fixing life by morning, because day 2 judges day 1. Would it still work today? Yes, if you bring engineers, translators, lawyers, medics, and trash trucks with your tanks. Number 9. Wolfpacks and Chokepoints. Starving a nation at sea. Close your eyes and hear it. The slow heartbeat thump of engines under black water, the ping of a searching sonar, the creak of a merchantman stacked with grain. Wars are won by food, fuel, and parts, making it from point A to point B. Wolfpacks and chokepoints are the art of making sure they don't. At sea, geography is a funnel. Trade doesn't smear evenly across the ocean. It threads through gates, the Jayuk Gap, Suez, Bab el-Mandeb, Hormuz, Malacca, the Taiwan Strait. Control the gates, and you don't need to sink every ship. You just need to make passing feel like playing roulette. In the World Wars, U-boats turned the North Atlantic into a math problem. Could convoys reach Britain faster than torpedoes could make headlines? The answer swung with inventions: HFDF radio fixes, centimetric radar, hedgehog mortars, escort carriers, and the humble convoy zigzag that robbed the wolf of an easy approach. But wolfpacks aren't just steel tubes anymore. A pack can be submarines plus land-based anti-ship missiles arrayed along a strait, plus aircraft with sea-skimming missiles, plus mines seeded weeks ago by an innocuous trawler, plus cheap unmanned surface vessels hugging wave tops, plus an insurer in London who just upped premiums because your cyber team popped a port scheduling system. Sea denial in 2025 is a stack. Sensors that find, fires that reach, lawyers that tighten, and underwriters who quietly sharpen the choke. The choreography looks like this. You map maritime traffic, AIS beacons, satellite radar, human eyes, pick the must-flow cargoes, fuel, grain, LNG, rare earths, and set the stage. A submarine loiters up threat from a strait. A fishing boat that isn't carries a mine rack. A shore battery rehearses firing arcs in a drill. The opening night might be a single spectacular hit that drives traffic into your missile basket, followed by a quiet campaign of almosts. Near misses, insurance scares, a drone film buzzing a tanker at dawn. Meanwhile, legal notices say unsafe waters, and neutral states grumble but comply. You've bent commerce without a battle line. What beats a wolfpack? Convoys, air cover, and patience. The dull genius of the convoy is forcing the attacker into a numbers problem. Many escorts, mutual sensors, cooperative jamming, overlapping weapons. Add maritime patrol aircraft and helicopters dipping sonar, add decoys and low signature routing, add escorts with magazines deep enough to write out a salvo. In the Cold War, the Essosus undersea microphone chains listened for propellers across whole oceans. Today, satellite constellations and unmanned pickets make finding easier, which cuts both ways. Hunters can see more targets, defenders can see more hunters. The trap for the attacker is magazine math. Anti-ship missiles are not pebbles, they're precious. Mines are cheap, but clearing them is slow, and slow hurts both sides. Submarines are predators, but also single shots. Once they fire, everything with an ear turns. If your plan needs more missiles than your factories can build this year, the ocean will teach you humility. Choke points are politics as much as physics. Close Hormuz and you haven't just hurt your enemy, you've angered customers across continents. Close Suez and you've given global logistics indigestion measured in GDP points. That means coalitions matter. Blockade is a group project. The law that justifies it keeps neutrals on side and insurers in line. It also means restraint matters. Sink a neutral by accident and watch your quiet pressure become a recruiting drive for escorts. Modern twist: ports and undersea cables. You can wolfpack a nation by soft-killing its logistics IT, scramble container registries, jam GPS in the Harbor's crane's midlift, and never fire a shot. You can also quietly cut or threaten cables that carry finance and orders. Suddenly, the convoy isn't moving because the spreadsheet can't. Would it still work today? Absolutely, because ships still carry the world. The side that marries sensors, escorts, law, and reloads wins the lanes. At the end of this chapter, takeaway: oceans are supply chains with weather. Own the gates and the insurance, and you can starve a nation without touching its shore. Would it still work today? Yes. Wolfpacks are now missile arcs plus mines, drones plus lawyers. Convoys still beat them if you bring air, ASW, and deep magazines. Number 10, swarm logic. Many smalls beat one big picture. A destroyer looking skyward as a cloud of cheap drones bees in from 5 directions. A tank platoon hearing a chorus of lawnmower buzzes. A base where the radar sees too much. Swarming is arithmetic warfare. Make defense spend $200,000 shots on $2,000 problems until the spreadsheet cries uncle. A good swarm doesn't rely on a single genius brain. It spreads smarts thin and wide. Each unit knows a few simple rules. Fly this path, home on this emitter, strike if target type X, and if you have the bigger picture, relaying timing and targets. If the network jams, the swarm degrades gracefully. Not pretty, still lethal. The aim is saturation, overwhelm detection, decision, and defense layers faster than they can reload. The recipe is simple. The cooking is not. You need launch sites the enemy can't scrub in one strike, garages, trucks, boats, backpack rails. You need deconfliction so 50 drones don't hit the same radar dome while the ammo dump smiles. You need noise, decoys that look like shooters to soak interceptors, jammers that blind search radars, and a few sacrificial pioneers to make the air defense switch on where your real wave is not. And you need timing. Arrive in breaths, not lines. First pulse to force emissions, second to hunt the emitters, third to exploit reload windows. Where swarms shine against expensive centralized defenses and high-value, low-number targets, a frigate, a radar, a SAM battery. Where they struggle, weather, EW, and battery math. Rain, wind, and mountains turn perfect plans into flocks of lost plastic. Jammers that shove GPS off a cliff or shout across control links make smart cheap into confused cheap. And every small needs charging, prepping, transporting, a tale of people and parts that the enemy will try to cut. Defense isn't helpless. The answer starts with layering cheap on cheap. Guns, proximity-fused shells, CRAM, man-pads, and newer directed energy systems for the close fight. Short-range missiles for the middle, EW to push or numb. Add deception, fake radar domes, inflatable vehicles, thermal decoys, and signature disciplines so your real asset don't look like the brightest thing in town. Hunt the brains, the vans, boats, rooftop antennas, and field antennas that coordinate or relay. Kill the launchers before the launches by watching for patterns. Night noises in the same parking lot, a fishing boat that never fishes, a truck that loves hilltops at dawn. And write ROE that lets sentries shoot early at known profiles. Hesitation is the swarm's ally. Ethics check. Autonomy is not a get-out-of-judgment card. Swarms must be geofenced, target sets tightly controlled, and humans on the loop to abort when the picture changes. It was the algorithm is not a defense for striking a hospital. The fun twist, swarms aren't just air. Maritime swarms, kayak-sized USVs with shaped charges, turn harbors and narrow seas into puzzles. Ground micro-teams can be a human swarm, 10 ingress points, breaching in seconds, overwhelming a compound's attention span. The logic is the same. Many smalls, well-timed, with enough brains to keep moving when a few get swatted. Would it still work today? More every year, because electronics get cheaper and defenses can't print interceptors at the same rate. But the hype misses the grind. A winning swarm campaign looks like logistics, treasures, spare props, batteries, code updates, field repairs, more than like sci-fi fireworks. At the end of this chapter, takeaway, swarms win by economics and overload, answer with cheap layers, smart EW, and killing the controllers, not just the widgets. Would it still work today? Yes. If you can launch often, coordinate simply, and survive jamming. It fails against layered guns, decoys, and discipline signatures. Number 11, headshot theory. Decapitation and targeted strikes. It's the most tempting idea in strategy. Cut off the head and the body falls. Sometimes it works. Often it doesn't. The body grows a new head, meaner than the last. Headshot theory targets leaders and command systems to paralyze decisions, scare lieutenants, or force talks. The question is always the same. How centralized is the brain? Start with the anatomy. In a brittle autocracy or a tight insurgent network, a few people hold keys. Orders, cash, contacts, fear. Take them and the machine stutters. In a resilient military with mission command, pre-delegated authority, clear intent, the head is a hydra. Cut one, others act. That's why decapitation isn't a tactic, it's a diagnosis. If you misread the patient, your surgery makes headlines and no change. Doing it right is dull and invasive. Months of mapping pattern of life, shadow networks, couriers, safe houses, backup comms, succession lists. Kinetic strikes are the last page, not the story. You might pair a raid with jamming that isolates a region, use cyber-to-brick radios, leak disinformation to spook deputies into staying home, and then hit 3 targets in one dawn so no one can take the wheel. The goal isn't just a body, it's paralysis measured in hours that your ground plan uses. Where it backfires, martyrdom and myth. Kill a charismatic leader, and you might recruit 10 angry cousins. Miss, and you hand the enemy a grievance on loop. Hit the wrong house, and your legitimacy bleeds out the front gate. In state-on-state fights, a decapitation attempt can escalate a limited war into a regime survival brawl, exactly the opposite of stability. The legal ethical rails matter. Assassination of political leaders in peacetime is generally off-limits. Targeting enemy combatant commanders in armed conflict can be lawful with distinction and proportionality. Signature strikes, hitting patterns rather than named individuals, risk mistaking behavior for identity, an error with a funeral and a camera. If your intel shop can't say who with high confidence, don't pretend what is enough. Modern twist. Deepfakes and comms hacks are a non-kinetic decapitation cousin. Fake orders that ground pilots or tell brigades to retreat. That's why sane forces rehearse verification rituals, code phrases, second-channel confirmation, paper fallbacks. If your general's face on a screen can move battalions without authentication, the enemy doesn't need a missile, they need a laptop. So, when does a headshot shine? Against hierarchies with fear instead of doctrine, terror franchises glued by one treasurer or ideologue, or small C2 clusters whose loss severs time-critical coordination, air defense shifts, missile salvos. When does it flop? Against distributed movements, against militaries that drill acting out orders, and against communities that read your strike as proof they're right about you. Would it still work today? Sometimes, surgically and as part of a larger design. If it's your plan A, expect disappointment. If it's the lever that opens a window for ground truth, seizures, negotiations, retreats, you might get the paralysis you paid for. Just don't confuse a dramatic night video with a strategic solution. At the end of this chapter, takeaway, headshots work on brains, not brands. Map the real control network, strike with law, and exploit fast or you just made a poster. Would it still work today? Yes, but only against centralized, brittle systems and as a chapter, not the book. Number 12, starve the spear. Logistics strikes that end offensives. Every thrust on a map is a diet plan, fuel per mile, shells per minute, tracks per day, mechanics per battalion, bridges per river. You don't have to outfight a spear if you can starve it. Logistics interdiction is the quiet war that makes bold arrows stop mid-stride. Start by thinking like a quartermaster. What are the indispensables? Bridges and rail chokes, fuel farms and pump stations, repair depots and recovery vehicles, ammo transshipment points, the bridging parks that let a river be a rumor, the maintenance crews who keep barrels replaced and tracks tensioned. If you can't name the enemy's reload rhythm, how many days between railhead and gun, your strikes will be flashy and irrelevant. If you can, the campaign becomes a calendar, hit just before they need it most. In the air, this was the WO2 transportation plan, bomb the right rails and marshalling yards, and suddenly, divisions arrived to the front, hungry and late. On land today, drones plus precision turn fuel convoys into guided bonfires. A single drop bridge on a road net with few alternates buys weeks. A hit on a regional transformer yard knocks out the pumps that move fuel, even if you never touch a tanker. A cyber exploit that scrambles depot inventory software can strand ammo in the wrong warehouse like it fell into a bureaucratic black hole. The point isn't destruction for its own sake, it's delay multiplied into failure. An attacker pauses to refuel under your UAV umbrella, engineers who should be building get tasked to repair, artillery that should support the assault fires south to protect a depot on fire. The front starves, the rear burns, and momentum, the only real magic in offense, bleeds away. That magic is fragile. Offense fails when culmination arrives, the moment your consumption outruns your resupply. Interdiction's job is to pull that moment left on the timeline, but you can also push it with deception. Fake fuel farms that lure missiles, decoys that waste deep strike assets, radio games that hint your rail node is critical when it's a shed with a tarp and a generator. Defenders aren't helpless. They disperse stocks, conceal with camouflage and thermal wraps, move at night, pick routes through wood lines, build redundant bridges 500 meters apart, keep repair battalions forward with parts kits, and practice rapid rail repair with pre-cut rails and cranes. They shift to local substitutes, fuel bladders, civilian trucks pressed into service, small generators to run pumps, modular depots that can pop up in a day and vanish in a night. They also try to blind you, shoot the spotters, drones, jam GPS, feed you decoy heat signatures, and drown your analysts in noise. Ethics and law matter here more than in most chapters. Fuel farms sit near towns, bridges carry people. The legal questions, distinction, proportionality, military necessity, aren't academic when hitting a transformer could black out a hospital. Smart interdiction obeys two tests. 1, necessity tied to a concrete operational effect. 2, mitigation, timing, weapon choice, warnings, so civilian harm is minimized. Strategically, it's also wise. Starving civilians today is recruiting for your enemy tomorrow. Modern twist, supply chains are digital. Starve the spear might mean hacking the depot's barcode scanners, or freezing the trucking firm's dispatch system, or sanctioning the insurer so the fuel ship floats offshore with nowhere to dock. Undersea pipelines and cables are also logistics. A cut cable won't stop a tank, but it can slow the orders that tell fuel where to go. Would it still work today? Yes, more than ever. Precision lets you hit nodes, not neighborhoods. Drones let you surveil patterns. Data lets you model burn rates. The side that treats logistics targeting like a science, not a hope, gets to watch the enemy's spear wobble and fall without ever touching its tip. At the end of this chapter, takeaway. Offense runs on fuel, bridges, barrels, and buffers. Break the reload rhythm, and the arrow on the map stops moving. Would it still work today? Yes, if you pair good sustainment math, patient ISR, precision, and restraint. Number 13. Shadow puppets. Proxy and hybrid war. Picture a map where the flags you see aren't the hands you feel. Proxy war is strategy with gloves on. Train, fund, arm, and advise a local force. Mix in cyber pinpricks, propaganda, and economic pressure. Keep your signature faint while your influence shouts. The hybrid part is the recipe, little bits of everything, so the enemy can't a clean spot to push back without escalating more than they want. It starts with plausibility. Your partner already has a grievance, a leader, and home field knowledge. You add logistics, comms, night sights, med kits, encrypted radios, drones. You add coaching, how to ambush, how to film the aftermath so donors believe. You add sanctuary, training camps just over a friendly border, a clinic, a safe warehouse. You keep lawyers busy, arm's-length companies, layers of deniability, volunteers with conveniently new uniforms. Operationally, you stack pressures. A militia shells an outpost the same week, a bot network floods feeds with clips of enemy abuse. A sabotage team lights a fuel relay while your diplomats table humanitarian access that would open the enemy's supply road to international inspection. A market suddenly switches to your currency because your banks greased the rails. Nothing alone decides the war. Together, they tilt the ground. Why it works: cost control and ambiguity. You spend little, bleed your opponent's manpower and legitimacy, and make it hard for big alliances to trigger mutual defense clauses. Why it fails: proxy drift. Your local partner has their own aims, patrons, and grudges. Atrocities torch their brand. Corruption turns guns into rent. The thermostat you thought you owned suddenly sticks. Too hot when you want cool, too cool when you need heat. Counters look like housekeeping. Name and shame with receipts, serial numbers, captured kit, bank trails, then squeeze the money, sanctions, export controls, insurer pressure. On the ground, dry the aquifer, protect people, fix petty predation, pay civil servants open courts so the proxy's recruitment pitch wilts. Patrol borders with sensors and dogs, not slogans. Offer off-ramps, amnesty plus work for foot soldiers, indict the irredeemable with boring, patient paperwork. Would it still work today? More than ever. Phones make attribution easier, but also make narratives faster. The side that keeps its proxy on a short echo leash and documents everything the other side does wrong wins audience and time. At the end of this chapter, takeaway: outsource violence and you outsource control. Manage your proxy's politics and conduct, or you're renting chaos. Would it still work today? Yes, if your story, sanctuary, and spreadsheets are tighter than your slogans. Number 14, mind over map, maneuver warfare. Not every victory is a pile of wrecks. Some are a pile of decisions the enemy never got to make. Maneuver warfare aims at the system, command, cohesion, logistics, so units crack because they're picker-cracked. Think speed, deception, and initiative. Get inside their OODA loop and keep turning. Start with recon pull, small eyes forward, UAVs, scouts, SIGINT, find gaps. Main forces flow toward opportunity, not a pre-drawn arrow. Layer shaping, artillery and EW blind sensors, jam nets, crater roads. Empower junior leaders with mission command. Clear intent, wide latitude. The effect is dislocation. Defenses built to stop a push on Highway 6 suddenly face a thrust along farm tracks, while bridges in the rear explode and HQs can't talk. Classic imagery is armored spearheads racing through a seam, but the soul is tempo. You change the problem faster than staffs can process. Feints, real thrusts, then a cut at the artillery parks and a sprint to the bridge that makes their whole line nonsense. Your logistics must sprint too. Fuel and tracks are strategy. Maneuver that outruns its gas becomes a cul-de-sac with bravado. Why it works. Human latency. Radios lag, approvals stall, maps lie by an hour, and fear loves hold your position. Why it fails. Defense in depth with mobile reserves, smart minds, and commanders who hand out initiative like candy. It also fails when comms die. Mission command is a myth if juniors are punished for acting or can't see the fight. Counters make speed expensive. Obstacles and kill zones, then elastic fallback to the next belt. Ambush artillery with counter battery and drones. Keep a real reserve uncommitted until you see the main blow. Protect your bridges like crown jewels. And be comfortable saying, retreat 2 kilometers now, buy time to punch later. Would it still work today? Yes, especially with small, smart packages riding a flood of cheap sensors. But it's brittle. One jammed net, one missing bridging kit, and a dash becomes a trap. The commander who loves tempo must love spreadsheets. At the end of this chapter, takeaway, break the mind, and the map follows if your fuel sappers and comms can keep up with your ideas. Would it still work today? Yes, with mission command and logistics that sprint as hard as your headlines. Number 15, Hunger Walls, Siegecraft Then and Now. Siege is slow murder or slow mercy, depending on what you plan for the morning after. You isolate, pressure, and wait until defenders choose surrender, breakout, or ruin. It's not romance, it's calorie math plus politics. The old tools were towers, rams, trenches, and mines, and the new ones are precision drones and block-by-block no-go arcs. Step 1, cut the arteries, roads, rails, rivers, air. Step 2, batter what matters. Counter battery versus their guns, hits on ammo stores, and demoralize, loudspeakers, leaflets, family phone lines left open. Step 3, keep your own ring alive, sanitation, rotation, pest control, air defense, so disease or missiles don't flip the script. Step 4, write the terms. Most sieges end on paper. It wins because time is a weapon. Stockpiles shrink, tempers crack, factions argue. Relief armies must fight through your belt. If they fail once, inner morale often collapses. It fails when you improvise cruelty. Starved civilians, wrecked water plants, no exits. The world turns on you, defenders harden, your political capital burns faster than their food. Modern law and cameras change the grammar. Humanitarian corridors aren't kindness, they're strategy. Fewer civilians, fewer tragedies, fewer viral clips that poison your cause. Deconflict hospitals, publish hotline numbers, put civil affairs officers at the checkpoint so we'll check becomes we just did. Your best siege is one you can defend in court and on TV. Defenders counter with stockpiles, deception, and sorties. Hide food, ration early, dig tunnels, raid batteries at night, keep a secret airstrip open or a river route alive with stealthy barges. Politically, they align stories. Unity forums, joint appeals, a mayor who speaks human. A single relief air bridge changes months of math. Would it still work today? Yes. Ugly or careful. Precision allows siege by fire, making movement lethal without total encirclement. Drones enforce rings with fewer troops. The moral test isn't optional. If the city survives you but hates you, you didn't win. You postponed a different fight. At the end of this chapter, takeaway. A siege is logistics wrapped in law. Win the supply math, relief race, and narrative, or don't begin. Would it still work today? Yes, with corridors, restraint, and a plan to turn surrender into order by sunrise. Number 16, vertical flank, airborne and amphibious gambits. Sometimes the flank isn't left or right, it's over or from the sea. Airborne drops and amphibious landings skip the wall to seize the key, a bridge, crossroads, port, or beachhead that makes the rest of the line irrelevant. The airborne script, surprise choke point. Paratroopers or heliborne infantry land behind lines at 300, Capture bridges before the enemy can blow them, block reinforcements, and hold until armor arrives. It's ballet with chainsaws, night, wind, scattering, radios that sulk. The amphibious script, mass plus logistics. You shape the shore, mines cleared, artillery silenced, air defense suppressed, then surf waves of landing craft and helos, getting off the beach before it becomes a kill box. Engineers pave exits, beachmasters turn chaos into lanes, ships vomit pallets until a port is functional. Why it dazzles? Geometry theft. Owning a bridge flips an entire campaign. A port turns an island back into a continent. Why it dies? Weather, air defense, and distance. Drops that scatter become penny packets, beaches that stall become cemeteries. Without air, naval supremacy, and deep logistics, vertical flanks are heroism in search of math. Counters layer the coast. Mines, obstacles, overlapping fires, mobile reserves to hit the beach before it expands. Deceive with fake beaches. Keep SAMs hidden until the real wave appears. Against airborne, blow the bridges early, flood fields, string mobile flak along likely LZs, and train every platoon to counterattack within minutes. Speed kills. Faster defense kills better. Modern twists. Tilt rotors and heavy lift helos make air mobile insertions routine. Precision fires and drones make beach prep survivable. Seabed sensors and maritime drones turn the approach into a chessboard. But the principle holds. You are betting big on hours. If follow-on echelons don't arrive, your vertical flank becomes a heroic footnote. Would it still work today? Yes, surgically. Think raids to open a corridor, seize a dam, or disable a coastal battery, not armadas storming a fortress. Still, if you own the sky and sea and your logistics plan reads like a symphony, the beach can still be a door. At the end of this chapter, takeaway: vertical flanks trade risk for geometry. Win the first hours with air-sea control and logistics, or don't knock. Would it still work today? Yes, when surprise, suppression, and follow-on lift are real, not hopes.